right. Well, happy Friday, everyone. David Shepard here with Phil Hamilton. And Phil, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right, David. It's looks like winter has passed, and hopefully we're into spring for good.
Absolutely. To play my role as weather drama queen, I've enjoyed this 80 degree. Well, not 80s. I think we hit 70 today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Hopefully Mother Nature won't hit us again with another cold spell. I mean, and if it is, maybe it won't be too bad. But yeah, it was spring. I'm starting to feel it. I'm still doing the long sleeve shirts for the most part, but I think that's hopefully she'll end in the next few weeks. Who knows
Yep.
when I'll do shorts. And then I'm bound and determined this spring for Memorial Day to Labor Day to wear my seersucker suit at least a couple times. But I do have to get the pants altered, so I'll show up in church in that, see what they think of the
Yeah.
seersucker.
Well, then you need to get yourself a hat. You need to get a white hat to go with it.
Yeah, I was never a hat guy. And with seersucker, I've been told black shoes really aren't the best with seersucker.
You got to have white shoes.
Yeah, I was told that too. Or with, they call them spats or something, where you have the black and whites. Well, busy week as always, political. Fast week, I will tell you that. Hopefully you had a good St. Patty's Day, though. The thing about St. Patrick's Day is over is now the Shamrock Shakes at McDonald's are cut off.
Oh, okay.
They don't do that this. Well, a big weekend potentially in Washington, the SAVE Act, literally called the SAVE Act, Save America Act, which deals with voting and photo ID and a number of other things in federal elections, may come up for a vote this weekend in the Senate. I hear the Senate's staying in town for this. I don't have much hope here because I don't think there's any way that Democrat senators are going to allow to force photo IDs to show, because that would be tougher for illegal aliens and others to vote. As an aside, before I turn it over to you on the SAVE Act, I will say this, that what amazes me about this debate, everyone talks about, we can't require an ID, a photo ID to vote because people may have trouble getting. Let me tell you something. If you have trouble getting a photo ID, you've got bigger problems than not being able to vote. You're not going to buy a drink. You're not going to get on a plane. Hard to get a job. Hard to get
You're not going to get
hotel reservations.
You're not going to get welfare benefits.
How was that?
No welfare benefits.
Yeah, so it just seems to me that it's just the weirdest debate. But of course, I think it's because you're going to have illegal aliens voting potentially, and others that a photo ID might stop them. So might be a barrier.
Well, didn't they just arrest somebody in Pennsylvania that had voted in every federal election since 2008, and he's not a citizen?
Yeah.
And I think he just got busted. So it's like, you can say there's no fraud. There's fraud in every election. There might not be enough fraud to overturn an election, but for people that say there's no fraud, they're crazy. The opposition to this is all about the illegals voting, just like they don't want any deportations, because if there's deportations, that's potential voters that are being exported after Biden imported them, and that's why they came in without any vetting. Is let them in. We'll be able to give them ballots, and they'll fill it out or sign their name or whatever they have to do. It all might be filled out for them, and then we'll mail it in. And it really is disgusting, because I don't know of any other country that allows non-citizens to vote in their elections. There may be some, but I'm not aware of them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. A lot of the cities, and a lot of the cities allow it. I think DC, you can be here illegally and vote. But you see, not to interrupt you, but that's the first step. You get them involved in the local election, you get them on the voting rolls, and then eventually you get those voting rolls with the federal elections. And
you lock them in because you give them federal benefits or state benefits or local benefits. They're going to vote however you tell them to vote, because they're going to vote for the people that gave them the free stuff, which really isn't free, because the other people are the ones paying for it to provide it.
Isn't it amazing that it was all you have to do to get them in is to wave them in, as Joe Biden did. But when it comes time to get them out, well, that takes three judges to get them out. So it's just amazing that. And the other thing about, and I know we weren't planning on discussing this, but the other, now that we think about it, now I'm getting angry. The thing is, with illegals, it isn't just that they want them potentially to vote; it's also for reapportionment. Because if they can fill the cities, it helps them in terms of congressional representation in those blue cities and those blue states. I think that is much of a reason as anything, even if they don't vote.
Yeah.
Because we have to count them in the census. I don't think we should count them in the census. If you're here in contradiction to the law, then they shouldn't count you. They should only count U.S. citizens. But anyway, that's another debate. Well, the SAVE Act, I certainly support its passage.
Yeah.
But I think short of getting rid of the filibuster, I just don't see a way. I don't know what you think. I just don't see a way of getting it passed.
I don't think it'll pass either, even though this is one of those 80-20 issues.
Yeah.
I mean, right. Even 71% of Democrats support it. And then you got like 95% of Republicans. And when you put everything together, it comes to like 83 or 84% of the general public supports this because it makes sense. People are used to having their ID. Now, all this rigmarole about, well, it's so difficult to get it. You got to get your birth certificate or your marriage certificate. If you've lost those things, they didn't cost you anything initially. If you've lost them, that's your fault. That's not the government's fault. And so this claim of, well, if I have to go and get another birth certificate or if I have to get a marriage certificate, that's a poll tax. No, find the one that you had. And if you've lost it, as I said, that's on you. That's not on the government. The government's not restricting anything. What it's saying is you've got to prove who you are. And I don't think that's any of it. I mean, I'm going to go, when we vote on this referendum, I'm taking my real ID driver's license. I'm taking my birth certificate. I'm taking two utility bills to show that I live here. And I'll let them say, well, you don't really need to bring all that stuff. I said, I know, but I don't want to be accused of not being a citizen. And the other thing is, it's just for people that are registering. It doesn't say anything about everybody has to re-register. Yeah. If you are registering to vote, you have to have all of those things. So if you're a married person, the way I read the law, it's not that you have to re-register. If you're registered to vote and you've got documentation that you've been voting on for the last 50 years, and you walk up and you hand them that, they're going to mark you off. It's for registering to vote. It's not just to vote. So that tells you who they're trying to get. They're trying to get all these people that haven't registered to vote, but they're going to get them to vote. So yeah, I think I'm like you, David. I don't think the votes are there, but I don't understand why there aren't. The one thing that has bothered me a little bit is the extra stuff they added to it. Yeah. I don't disagree with those things, but those should have been separate bills. Yeah. Make this strictly a voting bill. Yeah. What you have to register to vote, and then your ID to vote. But they chose not to do that. I don't even know that it would pass without those two other things that are added to it. But it'll certainly be a campaign issue in the midterms.
Yeah, I don't know, and I haven't looked into this enough to know the strategy. It seems to me if it were strictly a photo ID bill, I still don't think it would pass. But Democrats would really have, it just seems to me they'd have even less excuse. You add on other things, and then there'll be other reasons maybe they could give to vote against it. But if it were simply, you got to show some sort of photo ID, government issued, to vote in a federal election, maybe that would have a chance of passing. I don't know.
And I'm not opposed to requiring you to have some evidence of citizenship. I mean, to me, you can have a photo ID. You could probably buy those for a nickel on the street. Somebody making them, but like you said, government issued. But the idea that we're allowing non-U.S. citizens, and we've got the law that says non-U.S. citizens cannot vote, but you know it and I know it, without the photo ID component to that requirement, they don't have any proof of it. So let's prove you're a citizen, show the voter ID, boom, be done with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. But Trump really wants this, though. I think he's wanted this bill as much as any I think
Yeah,
he's ever wanted. So he's pushing hard for it. But I don't know. But like I said, if we don't get it passed, it's a campaign issue. I don't see them getting rid of the filibuster to get it done,
yeah,
though. So I don't think that happens. But we'll see. That's a big story. The other thing that's a big story going in this weekend is we still have a partial government shutdown. That's a shutdown of Homeland Security, which includes TSA. And we have a subscriber who she was telling me she's got a son who works for Homeland Security. He has not been paid for the last few weeks. I gotta say, I don't know why Democrats haven't taken more heat for this one, because clearly they're to blame, because Republicans are willing to fund it at current levels. It's the Democrats that are holding up the funding. And as you pointed out a million times, immigration, ICE is already funded, but they're trying to go hold up the funding of Homeland Security or TSA to get to changes on ICE. And I think the changes they want are not reasonable. The White House, as far as I know, have given in on being willing to do things like body cams, identification badges, different things like that. The masks are still an issue. And the one thing Democrats, I think, want, which I don't think the White House should give in on, is judicial warrants to
correct.
remove illegals, because they don't need judicial warrants. All you need is an administrative warrant. So I don't know when this ends. It either ends, I'm starting to wonder if it ends if you have a big major terrorist attack, because we have Homeland Security underfunded, not even funded really, or problems at the airport. Problems at the airport tick people off.
Yeah,
And I've been hearing that a lot of TSA workers are just walking off the job because they're not getting paid.
yeah,
But my question, I guess, to you is, I am surprised that Democrats haven't taken more heat for this.
yeah. It's it's an interesting dynamic. I think I heard that 35% of the TSA workers called out today. And the ramifications, what they're talking about is, well, we may have to stop the smaller regional airports. We might have them closed down so we can take the few TSA agents that are there and move them to a larger airport. Like in our situation, we've got the Williamsburg Newport News Airport. It's not very well. We got 2 flights, I think, from American Airlines, 2 out and 2 in. So it's not a heavily commercialized airport. We could take the TSA agents that are there and put them over in Norfolk, which is a much larger airport. Would hate to see that, but that's kind of what they're having to do, and it really doesn't make any sense. And you mentioned terrorist attacks. We've had 4 since March 1st. Last week we were talking about the terrorist attack at Old Dominion, and in Michigan, the synagogue. It makes no sense. What's interesting is last week I talked about Lisa Slotkin had made the comment that we need to separate ICE and we need to fund Department of Homeland Security. Today, she was on the floor saying we need to fund TSA by itself. Wait a minute. What happened to your statement last week, whereas we need to fund DHS, fund all of them? And that was her reaction to the terrorist attack last week. Funding TSA is not going to do anything for terrorist attacks. Yeah. Homeland Security, remember, was put in place after 9/11. So those people are the ones that are helping the FBI and everybody else protect the homeland. The subscriber that you mentioned, she's absolutely correct. Her son is protecting the homeland and is not getting paid. And that's wrong. There's a bill out there. Vote for it. It has nothing to do with ICE. You're trying to hold up a budget for a policy issue. And don't do it. Take your budget item and deal with it, and then deal with the policy issue through other legislation. That's the way the process is supposed to work, and it really is disingenuous for the Democrats to hold up the funding, because it's the Homeland Security also includes the Coast Guard. Well, that's protecting the homeland. I mean, you never know what's coming in. FEMA. Now, we've been lucky we haven't had any major disasters, but FEMA's part of that. TSA that we've mentioned. So there's a lot of things that need to be funded. I don't know why the Democrats aren't getting blamed for it, but for some reason they're not. and the Republicans have put everything in. They're ready to go, and every time they've voted, Fetterman votes with the Republicans, and probably Rand Paul votes with the Democrats. So it's probably a 52-48 vote, and I do not understand it at all.
Yeah.
Particularly with the things at the airport, particularly with the 4 terrorist attacks that we have, and particularly since the Coast Guard is included. It just makes no sense to me.
I think it's something that I think would make a lot of Democrats vulnerable to holding this up, because you got to think about it. Like our subscriber friend, I know she's a Republican anyway, but you think family members of TSA agents and Homeland Security people who are not getting paid, you think that it would be broader than just them that are upset. And clearly, Democrats are the villains on this one. They're the ones holding it up. I mean, there's no disputing that. Republicans want to fund it, but Democrats are holding it up to try to get changes with immigration enforcement, and they don't want to deport anybody.
Right.
That's the goal here. So, well, we'll see what happens on this one. I'm glad I'm not flying, but, it's weird that the shutdowns are lasting a lot longer than in the past. And I think that's because the partisanship is so much greater.
Yeah.
And the gerrymandering is such that, the only price you're going to pay is with primary voters, kind of.
Yeah.
Or in blue states, it's just going to be like Mark Warner. Oh, and someone who should be very vulnerable on this one. Mark Warner's still getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
The TSA agents and Homeland Security agents, especially in Northern Virginia, are they still getting a paycheck? No. So Warner should be shamed on this one. And,
Well, see, I've always argued that if you vote and you create a shutdown, then the congressional funding, not only for Congress, not only for the representatives, but their staffs as well and their district offices, everything shuts down. No money coming out of Congress until it's resolved. You'd see it resolved in a heartbeat then. Like you said, they don't have any skin in the game.
Yeah. And a larger proposal, Mark Warner's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Why the hell's he even taking the piddly Senate check? It's like Trump. Trump, I don't think he's ever taken a salary as president.
He has not.
And my understanding is Governor Youngkin didn't take a salary as governor.
Okay.
So I don't understand why someone worth hundreds of millions even taking it, or just give it to charity. But anyway, but certainly in this case, our TSA agents, Homeland Security, they should be getting paid.
Yeah.
And certainly the senators holding this up, and all of them should not get paid.
Right.
While this is going on. It's just not fair at all. So we'll see what happens on that one. But this is part of the resistance. Democrats have always been here. I remember remember he's not my president.
Right.
And so they're continuing that. The other thing going on that we need to watch is in Iran. I think we're at day 20 or day 21 now.
Yeah, it'll be day 21 tomorrow.
Okay. Since the bombing. I don't know about you, and I'm not a military strategist, nor do I play one on a podcast, but it seems to me that there's going to need to be troops on the ground at some point, certainly in the case of Karg Island, which is an island off Iran in the Straits, which is a very strategic point, and you kind of need to capture that, I think, to control the Straits. So anyway, I don't know about you, but I think at some point, and we probably already have some advisors on the ground, but I think there's going to come a point where we'll need some people there, because I don't know how much you can continue to do through the air.
They've done a lot of damage to Craig Island. What they didn't do is they didn't bomb the reserve tanks of oil that were there. They didn't bomb the pipes. So from an economic standpoint, they didn't ruin that part of the island, but they pretty well took out everything else. Yeah. I don't know how many people Iran has on that island. I do know that there's 2,500 Marines en route to the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
And it'll probably take them a while to get there, but I don't like boots on the ground, but the fact that it might be the island, it's still boots on the ground, but it's not what I consider interior Iran. It's not, marshaling the streets of Tehran or whatnot. that's 90% of the oil that Iran sends out goes through Craig Island.
Yeah.
And he didn't damage the infrastructure of it, so he could still put a military force in there to basically protect it. That could be the rationale. I am protecting the oil for Iran. And then if he did that, then he's got the ability and the capability with some of these other countries that are coming in to actually protect the Strait of Hormuz and get those ships flowing, because those ships are not hurting the what we need in the U.S. We're an exporter of oil, so we've got all the oil we need, but it's all controlled by the international market. And the other places aren't able to get it, so they're having the shortages, which are driving up, our oil prices as well. Get the island secured under our control, or even if it was a coalition force, would be fine. But then use that coalition force to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, so that the economy then can start to recover. And it helps the world. It doesn't necessarily help the U.S. only to the fact that it then lowers the prices of the international market for oil, which would benefit the U.S. But as far as drops of oil that we need, we don't need it from Iran. We've got Venezuela that can pump oil. So yeah, it's I think that's about the only place I could even support. As long as it was there to protect the oil and not to go onto the mainland, I could probably support a small expedition force of Marines, who would be a pretty tough group of guys, and then just make sure that we've got the flights and everything else protecting them. That use our air power to protect them. So
Yeah.
And people are moaning and groaning. It's only been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
This is not Ukraine that's going on 4 years. This is not Afghanistan that was 20 years. I get so frustrated with these people talking about this long war. A, boots aren't on the ground, and B, it's only been 3 weeks. I think it's been pretty daggone quick, and they're being very strategic. They're dropping heavier bombs at places now outside of the city of Tehran, and some of these outlying places that Iran was storing things, or underground things, and they're dropping these big monster bombs that make some of the other stuff look like BBs.
Yeah. Well, it's also faulty thinking to think that we put boots on the ground in Iraq and that didn't go well, so if we put boots on the ground somewhere else, it'll be another Iraq, and that just isn't true. I don't think so. No, I think it's going to be a needed thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it'll be a needed thing, and I think it can be certainly supported and justified. And like you said, this is Iran doesn't have much left. I mean, they don't really have. They're not even going to be able to put up much of a fight.
I think Israel's target now is, of course, anybody that takes a leadership role is on Israel's list. But I think Israel is now going after the actual soldiers, wanting to attack them and eliminate them too. But it's a tough road. Don't run for any leadership office in Iran right now.
Yeah,
Stick your head up and your head gets blown off.
Yeah, the guy ahead of you keeps getting killed, and so they're coming for you next. Well, we'll see what happens, but the only thing I would say is the reason I think they'll be tenacious is that the leadership, the mullahs and the people in the theocracy and government, they've had it so good for so long that they understand in a way that if you turn them loose, you turn them to the public, not that they'll all be treated like Mussolini was or Gaddafi, but yeah, they're giving up a lot.
They hung 3 young men yesterday.
I heard, yes, you mentioned that. Yeah,
and one of them was a world-class wrestler. The youngest one was a world-class. So, I mean, what that does, though, is that shows the world how vicious the theocracy is.
Yeah,
and it might be the type of thing that starts to get everybody turned against Iran.
Yeah,
much more aggressively than what they have in the past. I mean, they've kind of been standoffish, but when you start to see public hangings and you're hanging young men, and They didn't have a trial. It was a sham trial, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So that's what they're going to do. It'll be interesting to see what happens to these women on the soccer team that came back. I mean,
Yeah.
they came back, but who knows? They may try them as traitors. They may end up hanging one or all of them that came back. It's just a vicious, vicious, violent. And I mean, if you look at the theocracy that they live by, it's all about murder, eliminating. Boom. It's no mercy. Like if you steal something, you get your hand cut off.
Yeah.
If you get your eyes plucked out for certain things, it's vicious, and it's something that I think for a lot of reasons needs to be dealt with, and we're dealing with it, and hopefully we can deal with it without having to put United States boots on the ground in the proper of Iran. I don't want to see that, but it'll be what it'll be.
Well, it's easier for us maybe in some ways to do it than Israel's not really going to be able to put boots on the ground because they're doing that would inflame the Muslim world far more than us. But well,
Well,
we'll
they're
see
in,
that.
they're in Lebanon. They got boots on the ground in Lebanon now
Okay.
because Lebanon was firing off some missiles and rockets. So Israel returned the favor and actually has got boots in the ground. But there have been boots in the ground in southern Lebanon a lot of times before. They keep a regiment or a battalion or whatever right there at the northern border, so that when Hezbollah does this, because Hezbollah is primarily in the south, and they do have some boots on the ground there, but that seems to be a routine thing. But yeah, if you were to start shipping Israeli soldiers to Iran, that might ignite a few people. But I'll tell you what, Iran, by bombing the Saudi Arabia and Oman and Bahrain and those places, really has turned a lot of those Middle Eastern countries against Iran. So you
Yeah.
don't know. They may say, "Hey, go in there and just take care of everything."
Yeah, they always had a problem with Iran anyway. One thing, Iran being Shia and Persian as a majority as opposed to Sunni and Arab. So there's always certain division there. And even when the Shah was in power, uh, Iran had good relations with Israel. They would deal with Israel. It's not as clear cut as people think. They're
Right.
not all opposed to Israel. Well, before I forget, I'll interrupt this podcast just for a brief commercial. I still have copies of my second book, Morton's Choice, a little novel about a Virginia governor who gets into some trouble. So if you'd like it, I'd love to send you a copy. If you could just become a paid subscriber at like $8 a month, which is less than a fast food meal. And that's enough for me to keep going with the podcast and the columns. So check out the book. I'd appreciate that. Well, let's move to Virginia. I have heard today that a lot of the bad bills are now coming to Spanberger's desk, including a gun bill that in effect outlaws most rifles. So we'll see if she signs it. I guess she will. And then whether there'll be a Supreme Court challenge to that. I was saying earlier to you, Phil, that we all should be thankful that the United States Supreme Court is far better than the Virginia State Supreme Court. The Virginia
Yeah.
State Supreme Court, we have no protection from them, but we do have a Supreme Court of the United States, which is good. So that's the only thing protecting us. And I noticed in the redistricting campaign that I saw that this week, Barack Obama has a commercial out advocating, it's so odd, advocating for fairness. And what is fairness to him? Drawing our districts in such a way that none of them will be competitive. We'll have no competitive congressional districts, all to benefit the Democratic Party. And that somehow, get this, is fairness. And I wrote a column, and it's up now on the outside money that's coming into this campaign. It's over $20 million so far. It's from groups all across the country trying to rejigger our districts to favor the Democrats. And I got a little pushback from someone who said, well, so what? So there's outside money. The outside money comes in because members we send to Congress affects the nation. But I think there's something unfair about getting involved in the districting of people in a different state because the people in this case, our case, Virginia, we have to live with the districts. And outsiders should stay out of that because we're going to have the ramifications of having 5 members of Congress from Northern Virginia.
Right.
We're going to have to live with, like I said, none of our districts will be competitive. So we have to live under that. And therefore, I think outsiders should stay out, and it should be a Virginia choice. But anyway, the money's flowing in, and they know that in a special election in April, you're going to have low voter turnout, and in effect, they can buy the outcome that they want. So they know that, and they're just overwhelming us with money on this one. I have seen a lot of grassroots stuff for the no campaign, but I have not seen much on social media on it in terms of commercials and stuff. But I'll tell you this, the Yes campaign, every day, every single day, I see their ads on podcasts that I watch. So they're overwhelming us so far with money. But anything that you're seeing on this vote, this campaign that strikes you, sticks out?
Well, you mentioned the grassroots, and I guess I'm an old dinosaur when it comes to political campaigns.
Yeah.
Never underestimate the silent majority. It's true that I think the no campaign has raised just under $500,000.
Yeah.
And they're going to do some media buys, but it can't be much compared to what the Democrats are doing. You have to wonder why the Democrats think they have to spend $20 million. I mean, so from my perspective, people, if they're paying attention, are saying, well, wait a minute, they're spending $20 million. This somebody came and knocked on my door and told me to vote no. I get a little suspicious. I don't care where the money's coming from, but just the amount of money, it's like, well, this must really be a bad thing if they're spending so much money to make me do it.
Yeah.
And people have got to be educated because the question on the ballot, from my perspective, is unconstitutional with the restore fairness. That's clearly a biased question.
Yeah.
And that gets back to your comment about the Virginia Supreme Court not having the backbone to address any of the constitutional questions that people raised 6 months before the vote was ever going to take place. And they decided to kick the can down the road. There's just a part of me that says there's that silent majority out there that is so irritated, by Spanberger and the Democrats in the Virginia General Assembly in general, and then particularly for this redistricting thing, that just maybe there's enough little bit of faith in me that says, you know what, people are going to turn out and they're going to produce an upset on this way. It's, if I was going to do the betting window, I might not put the $2 on it, but by golly, I'm really thinking that there's a lot of people that aren't saying much. They're not participating in the polls or anything like that, but they're just irritated by a lot of different things. And whether you know anything about redistricting or not, if you're concerned about the tax increases that are going to be on your paychecks for the paid family and medical leave, if you're a gun owner and you're concerned about all the gun legislation that's going on, if you're concerned about some of the changes within the public education system, that might, your concern might be enough to say, I don't care what this is about, but I'm going to vote against it. But I'm going to vote no on everything. I'm voting no on everything. There were some legislators that did that because you could never really get criticized for voting no. I mean, there were some of them that said, look, I didn't go to Richmond to create more laws. I went to Richmond to maintain, the government and the status quo. I'm just hopeful, David. I'm really hopeful that after the last election, where 45% of the people who were eligible to vote did not vote, I hope that at least half of that 45% votes this time, and we get a 75% voter turnout possibly for this election. And if we do that, I think there's a chance. Because living in Hampton Roads, why do I want to cede any power to Northern Virginia?
Yeah, true.
And I know that I don't think my district or where I live comes into one of those Northern Virginia districts, but I know it comes down to York County. Well, York County and the Northern Neck have absolutely nothing to do with Northern Virginia. That's like a completely different world over in the Northern Neck in York County. And you're going to be hooked up to somebody that lives in Arlington or Alexandria, one of those cities up there.
Yeah.
It violates everything. It violates the compact, contiguous communities of common interest, in addition to some of the other constitutional things that have been raised. So we'll see what happens. This is one that I pray over, because I think this really sets a very bad precedent for mid-decade redistricting period.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with what Texas or anybody else has done mid-district. I applaud Indiana because they said, no, we're not going to do this. Just vote no is all I can say. People have just got to go vote no.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. They never mentioned Indiana. They could have followed the Indiana model, but they decided to follow the Texas model. But former Governor Gilmore made a great point. I read a column he had on it that, Abigail Spanberger's line that this is just temporary is totally disingenuous. She can't make such a claim, because by the time they redraw the districts next time, the next reapportionment, she'll be out of office. So she has no say over this. So there's no way she can say this is just temporary. There's no way for her to say that. And I guess the final point I'd make that I've made before, and people seem to register, a subscriber of ours registered, and I don't know that he's necessarily a Republican, but he was telling me that the point that I made that he liked that struck him was this notion that it's just temporary. Well, if it's a good thing, why is it just temporary? That's like a red flag when you tell me, well, I'm going to do something, but don't worry, it's only temporary. But it really is good, but it's just temporary. Yeah. So that's also, I think, a hard thing for them to.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that irritates me so much is it violates the concept that they voted for in 2020 overwhelmingly for the redistricting commission to handle redistricting, and I thought they did an excellent job. When you look at the current districts, they are compact, they are contiguous. For the most part, they are communities of interest. Even out in Southwest Virginia, the community of interest is the same, even if the district's 300 miles long. I mean, it's rural out there, and to me, that's the thing that frustrates me is you're violating something that the citizens voted on just 6 years ago, and they did it in a presidential election when there was a much larger voter turnout. I think it was close to 67 or 68% turned out in that presidential election. To put this redistricting commission in the Constitution, and now you're going to go in and circumvent that. To me, that's what irritates me more than anything else.
Well, just think also, we made this constitutional change in November in a presidential election, so you had a big turnout. Now they're going to try to undo that in a special election in April with a much smaller turnout. Yeah. So that's the other legitimacy of the problem. The other reason why I don't think this is temporary, they're going to create 10 members of Congress now through this. So they're going to add four new members of Democrats. How are they going to change the districts back? They're not going to do that. You're not going to eliminate 4 of your own people. They're not going to do that. So it's not temporary. This is utter complete nonsense. So anyway, we'll see what happens here, and we got to keep fighting. Well, let's take a look at our winners and losers of the week. I'll start with a winner. I think Markwayne Mullin. He came through the hearings to replace Kristi Noem in Homeland Security, and he already passed the first big hurdle because I guess Homeland Security Committee approved his nomination. So I think he's on his way to being confirmed. Do you have a winner of the week?
I do, and while I was disappointed with the outcome, I've got to give credit to the Venezuela baseball team that won the World Baseball Classic. It was a very good game, 3-2 game. They won it in the 9th inning by scoring after Bryce Harper hit a 2-run homer in the 8th to tie it up. Yeah. So I was disappointed that the U.S. didn't win, but you've got to give credit to the Venezuela baseball team, and they won a big tournament, and I want to give them congratulations for that.
Yeah, that was a great game. I started watching the World Baseball Classic, and I would watch it at night on the edited version. So I would watch the whole game in like 20 minutes. They would cut out everything else other than the base hit or an out or something. Yeah. I watched it. I was disappointed as usual. I saw Bryce Harper's home run and tied it up, and I thought we got a shot, but we ended up folding on that one. Well, my losers of the week, and this stays very local at Fairfax County, is Stacy Kincaid, the sheriff, and Steve Descano, the Commonwealth's attorney, are being summoned to Capitol Hill to testify before the Judiciary Committee. It's a subcommittee on dealing with sanctuary cities. So they'll be forced to testify and explain their horrible policies. Stacy Kincaid will get 15 minutes of fame, and then people will expose her as someone who shouldn't be a sheriff. And same thing with Descano, shouldn't be a Commonwealth attorney. Another bit of news about Descano this week. I think it was this week. I don't think we've discussed this one. They got a student at a high school in Fairfax. I don't know which high school. 19 years old, here illegally. They put him in the 11th grade. And anyway, he was groping the girls throughout the school. And I think the school tried to cover it up as much as they could, or downplay as much as they could. Well, finally, enough parents complained. And Descano, and I don't know if there are other charges against him or not, but Descano ends up moving forward with a prosecution. They get to court. They got the guys there with the defense attorney. The defense attorney, no surprise here, is recommending no jail. Guess what? Or no, not being held over for trial. And guess what? Steve Descano agreed with the defense attorney. Surprise, surprise. He said this guy shouldn't be held up in jail. And kudos to the judge. The judge said no, he needs to be behind bars for now. So, yeah, it's another case. So anyway, those are my two losers of the week. Although the real losers are probably the people of Fairfax County because they have Steve.
Yeah, they got to deal with that situation.
I know.
Well, I ran across a headline that the Maryland legislature had passed a bill to put tampons in boys' restrooms. I don't know if Westmore has signed it or not, so I don't know that it's law yet. But I thought that, for the Maryland legislature to pass a law doing that, I would say that they were losers of the week. But I thought of one more, and that's Kathy Hochul, who in 2022 was telling wealthy Republicans they could catch a bus and go to Florida if they wanted to. And now, just yesterday, she was being interviewed, and she was begging for those people that she told to leave New York to come back. Because we need your money. And it's like, oh, this is interesting. So you told them to leave. A lot of them took advantage of it. And boom, now you're begging for them to come back because she basically said that their revenue stream had been, devastated. And that's even before Mandami gets in there and starts raising taxes like crazy. Those people are going to bail even faster. So those were my two losers, Kathy Hochul and the Maryland legislature.
Well, those are two good candidates for losers. Yeah, she should have read the book. I don't know if you ever read the old book, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, where the wealthy decide to boycott society and then everything falls apart because they have no money. And that's the case in New York. And remember, think of what's going to happen our next reapportionment. Next time we do the census, California could lose, I think you were saying 3 to 4 seats in Congress.
Yeah. And New York's supposed to lose 2 at least.
And, I also wonder if Houston at some point, I don't know how many years it'll take, but Houston may surpass Chicago as the third biggest city in America because Houston's growing big time. Chicago's losing. So, you never know. And these things will all have an effect on the Electoral College and, the makeup of the House. So we'll see what happens. Well, Phil, I hope you end up having a great weekend.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll start feeling good enough to play some golf.
Not yet. We'll see. Hopefully it continues to feel better, and I may at least see if I can swing a club. But right now, I don't think I'm I can do that. And the bigger problem is the leg. Um, it's not so much the flexibility in the back. It's just the leg. But I'll be okay. I'll make it through. We'll find something to keep me busy.
Well, maybe a golf cart helps. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, the golf cart doesn't hit the ball.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's
Yeah,
true.
that's the big issue. I just can't make the turn, and it's more when I get to a certain point in the turn, that's where it pulls, where the pinched nerve is, and that's the pain in the leg is always there. So I'll make it. Something will happen, and it'll all be good. We'll see.
I'll leave everybody with a little bit of trivia. I heard the other day. I'm kind of a history buff, as you know, and I was reading. I saw a documentary sort of on the Booth conspiracy, the conspiracy to kill Lincoln, and Mary Surratt was the first woman, I guess, in the United States hung in that case. I think she got a raw deal in many ways. I think if it were a regular trial, she wouldn't have gotten convicted. But a bit of trivia I heard, and I didn't see the movie, but in like 2010, there was a movie about the conspiracy, and it starred an actress. I think her name was Robin Wright. But I had heard that in that movie, Robin Wright, I guess the same size as Mary Surratt, actually for many of the scenes wore the same dress that Mary Surratt wore. That they say. I just thought that was interesting. That's an example of stepping into character. I thought,
Yeah.
wow, that's something. Well, Phil and everybody else, keep checking my columns. I got a couple new ones up, and please consider becoming a paid subscriber. And I look forward to seeing you, Phil, next week.